Hello everyone and welcome back to Alternative Apex. We are here in Canada for round 7 of the 2022 Formula 1 season, here for the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, a circuit that has produced some classic races in the history of Formula 1. Of course you had the 2007 Grand Prix, where famously Robert Kubica had that massive crash, and then you had the 2008 Grand Prix, where Robert Kubica ended up getting his one and only career victory at this very circuit. So add that to the list of many others over history that have produced some very memorable moments. It is quite the track, and I very much look forward to today's race. Now it is time to look at the starting grid. It is Carlos Sainz on pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who had a great qualifying in the rain yesterday, which allowed him to get onto the front row for Mercedes and nearly get his first pole of the season. Charles Leclerc starts third, with Verstappen in fourth, with George Russell fifth, and Nico Hülkenberg in sixth. Then in 7th it is the Alfa Romeo Valtteri Bottas with Lando Norris in 8th. Then 9th and 10th you have Alonso and Perez, who had another weaker qualifying session. Then we have Mick Schumacher and Esteban Ocon, followed up by Pierre Gasly and Daniel Ricciardo, with Yuki Tsunoda and Sebastian Vettel behind them. Then comes Pascal Wehrlein, the second of the Porsches, with the Aston Martin of Stroll behind him. Then it is Alexander Albon, Kevin Magnussen, Nicholas Latifi and Zhou Guanyu, who round up the grid. Now it is time to go down to the actual grid to see all the drivers and cars preparing for today's race. Here we see them on a slightly overcast day. There's a little bit more sun than there was in qualifying, when there was quite a little bit of rain involvement. It wasn't throughout the whole session, but rain was involved throughout the qualifying sessions, which did mix up some of the field, which is, always exciting to see. Hence why Lewis Hamilton is starting on the front row, despite Mercedes not really having the pace so far this season. Equally, Sainz starting on pole, it's a real chance for him to try and get some points back over Leclerc, as Leclerc's really cut into that championship lead over the last few races. So that's going to be exciting to see whether Sainz can finally start to reassert himself within Ferrari. But now the cars are heading off for the formation lap for today's race. Another highlight from qualifying was Nico Hülkenberg and Porsche. After more points last time out in Azerbaijan, really strong qualifying here for Hülkenberg, getting up to 6th on the grid, which is, well, for a team that joined F1 at the beginning of this season, getting 6th is very impressive, but clearly there's still some issues there, as Wehrlein qualified 17th, so not ideal for them. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in this race to see where they sort of move from there, because we've seen so far this season, when they qualify well, they tend to drop back, and when they don't qualify well, they seem to come forward. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can gain places or whether they lose places in this one. I doubt Wehrlein will lose places, given that he did have such a bad qualifying session, but who knows what will happen in this race. Canada, quite often a very chaotic Grand Prix, so anything can happen. That is, well, very much the catchphrase of Formula 1 is anything can happen, as the drivers now line up on the grid ahead of today's races. See there, at the back of the grid, the final couple of cars just slotting into position, as they will now turn their attention to the lights. The lights are coming on now, and we are racing in Canada. It's a brilliant start there from Lewis Hamilton on the outside line. He's got a brilliant launch. Charles Leclerc as well is getting involved here. They're free wide into turn 1. They bang wheels. There's contact. Lewis Hamilton straight on. He's missed the corner. It's Sainz who maintains the lead ahead of Charles Leclerc. And Max Verstappen. Hülkenberg's up into 4th off the start. But Hamilton is dropping down all the way to the back of the field. They're down in 22nd place. It's all gone wrong for the Mercedes driver. Let's look at him at the back of the field. He missed turn 1. They banged wheels. They banged tyres. They banged side pods through the first corner. And that is, well, of course, some early drama here in Canada, as Hamilton goes from 2nd on the grid to 22nd in the race here, as Sainz maintains the lead, and there's plenty of battles throughout the midfield as we see them making their way through the first lap now. But out front it is Carlos Sainz out of Charles Leclerc in the 2 Ferraris, with Verstappen in 3rd and Hülkenberg in 4th. Now looking at Bottas versus Norris at the end of this first lap. Down the back straight towards the chicane. This could get exciting as they make their way towards the braking zone here. Perez has gained a couple places off the start, looking to gain a couple more here as these two racing through the final chicane. They're going to be banging wheels. Oh, a lot of contact. Big sideways moment there for Lando Norris, as that is going to allow a couple of cars to maybe have a chance of passing them here. Oh, that's Wehrlein, who's come from 17th on the grid to 7th for the end of lap 1. Absolute madness here in Canada. Brilliant start there for the German, who has gained 10 places in one lap, and the battling's not over here, as further down the road we've got Ricciardo and Ocon battling away here. Schumacher's watching this one. He wants to get involved. And look, as they go through the chicane side by side, who's going to come out on top? It's Ocon, who will hold on to the position ahead of Ricciardo. Schumacher now will have a look at making the move here, but won't be able to make any sort of move on that occasion, as he stays behind us now. Continuing his charge up the other way, we have Perez trying to make the move on Pascal Wehrlein. He got passed by Wehrlein on the previous lap when they had that sort of that strange moment in the chicane. Oh, that's smoke! Smoke from the back of Lando Norris, battling up in the points. Had some great racing there, but he's out of the race now. Lando Norris is retiring from the Canadian Grand Prix with an engine failure. Gone badly wrong there for the McLaren driver, who would have been hoping to try and score some big points today, because it looked like they had the pace in that McLaren car. But in the meantime, Perez has got up into 7th place, Wehrlein dropping down to 8th now. But you can see this pack of cars still very close. We're going to see a lot of racing here today. As now we do indeed see some racing. It's Alonso on the back of Wehrlein. Wehrlein got that great start, but now perhaps looking like his pace isn't quite where he's running. As Alonso's going to go to the inside of the final chicane, dives it up the inside. Let's see, can he make the move stick? He does indeed. As Perez will come into the pit lane. Perez, interestingly, started on the soft compound tyre. So, different strategy there for the Red Bull driver, who is, well, doing something different in today's race. Is now going to see what tyre he's gone to. It looks like the medium compound there for the Mexican driver. So, interesting to see what strategy he's going for, because most people start on the mediums. I imagine going medium to hard strategy being the most popular one, but Perez going soft to medium, so who knows what he will do. He surely can't take those tyres to the end, and now we see the two Ferraris racing out front. Oh, and that's straight. Sainz has gone straight on at the hairpin. He's missed the hairpin, and he's gone wide. That is allowed Charles Leclerc to have a great opportunity to try and take the lead away from him now. Look at that, Leclerc all over the back of his teammate. He wants to continue hunting down his teammate's championship lead, as now he's going to go to the outside of the chicane. He brakes late. He brakes later than Sainz, and gets up into the lead of this race. Brilliant move there from the Monegasque. Wonderful stuff here. Great for the fans here in Canada to see some racing for the victory. Sainz will drop down to second, and if things stay this way, he will lose the lead in the championship as Verstappen 4 seconds back from those top two. It looks like those Ferraris once again are in a class their own now. As we look further down the order, George Russell is on the back of Nico Hülkenberg, still running 4th, which is very impressive there. Oh, but he's going to make the same mistake as Sainz did. Exactly the same mistake. Again, we're seeing sort of these common mistakes from a lot of these drivers. They're going to be side by side out of the hairpin, but Hülkenberg, fair play to him. He's got a much better exit there. Maybe the wide line had a bit more grip on it for the traction. But now Russell, with that Mercedes, with that DRS, he's going to get up into 4th position there. Hülkenberg looks at putting it back up the inside, but in the end thinks better of it, and will drop down to 5th position here as Russell is up into 4th place now. Verstappen, the next car up the road, but I'm not sure the Mercedes will quite have the pace to reel in those drivers. But Russell carrying the hopes of Mercedes now today after Hamilton's early issues. Now on lap 15 of 35, Charles Leclerc, our race leader, is going into the pits here. He's again pitting before his teammate. It's like we've seen him do most races so far this season. Sainz going to try and do the overcut, but I don't think it's likely to have much of an effect. We've seen the undercut be the strategy of choice for most races so far this season. So now, as we see a lap later, Sainz does come into the pit lane, but I think this is going to be a tough one for Sainz to try and take the lead. He's going to need a good pit stop. Let's see what it's like here. Ferrari, looks a bit slow there from Ferrari. Not dreadful, but won't be enough, I imagine, as indeed it is not. He will come out in 2nd place, or 3.5 seconds behind his teammate. That's a huge gap now. There's growing between the two Ferrari drivers, so Charles Leclerc once again looking like he is going to control another race here as Russell comes out of the pit lane in 4th place. Then we see Sergio Perez, who's on this different strategy, up into 5th on the road ahead of Hülkenberg. But Perez will, I imagine, have to pit again going soft to medium, whilst everyone else has gone medium to hard. So another pit stop probably on the way for Sergio Perez. Now on lap 20 of the race. Will he do just that? He will indeed. Down the pit entry there, braking nice and late. It's a bit of a questionable pit entry there, because you brake later for a corner because you don't take the corner, if that makes sense. But luckily no one was in front of him, so no worries there. And of course these drivers are professional, they know what they're doing, they're not going to make stupid mistakes like that. But he will come out in the race up into just about P12 there. Nearly got P11 with Ricciardo ahead of him, but just couldn't quite make the move. Perez going to the hard compound tyres. This is an unusual strategy from Red Bull, but trying something different after having a slightly struggling a little bit in qualifying. So trying something different, and now will be trying to make up these positions, get up into the points paying positions. That Red Bull car very much belongs in probably the top 5 here. Is now down the inside of the final hairpin here, not the final corner of the lap, but the final sort of I was going to say proper corner, but the chicane's a proper corner. And now let's stop this philosophy of what types of corners are corners. Down the back straight we go, side by side, Daniel Ricciardo and Sergio Perez here, going towards the final chicane. Down the inside, late on the brakes, Perez outbrakes the man that's often known as the last of the late breakers there. But Perez up into 11th place, and I doubt Ricciardo in that McLaren will have the chance to fight back. So whilst McLaren are looking like they would score points today, it's not looking quite as likely now, as we do see Alonso back behind Wehrlein. I believe Wehrlein may have passed Alonso in the pit window, hence why he's back ahead. But Alonso is going to make the move into turn 1. They're side by side. They're a bit late on the brakes here. Down the inside goes the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. They're still side by side through turn 2. Up on the curb on the inside goes Wehrlein. Will he get the traction on exit? Here we go. Who is going to get the better grip? And it's going to be Alonso. The experienced veteran of Formula 1 masters the throttle control there and gets himself back up into 7th place here with Wehrlein dropping down to 8th. But I imagine he will not be wanting to give up that position too easily as he looks to get back up into 7th here. As again, we're going to see Sergio Perez on the back of another car into the hairpin, and Schumacher goes straight on at the final hairpin there. That's a mistake from the Haas driver, and unlike previous times where I see drivers make that mistake, it doesn't look like Schumacher's had the chance to really fight back at all here. We've seen a lot of those guys that have made that mistake be able to still continue on the corner exit to continue the fight, but Perez on this occasion just nailed it and didn't give Schumacher a chance to come back at him there, as he continues his charge up here. He's now on the back of Esteban Ocon, and I wonder what's going to happen here. Is it going to be the same move again? Oh, actually, no, he's going to actually try and make it properly on the brakes rather than just waiting for the mistake. He's going to go to the outside here of the hairpin now. Down the back straight, we're going to see side-by-side racing, but not for long there as Perez continues to use his grip advantage to make his way up the order, up into 9th place. Now Ocon is going to fight back, to be fair to him. That Alpine's not a slow car at all. Side-by-side with the final chicane, Perez again breaks that a little bit later on those fresher tyres and is up into 9th position. Nice and comfortable there. Next cars are Wehrlein and Alonso, but with only a couple laps left, it's going to be tough ask to try and get those guys. Now we look back up to the front at Charles Leclerc through the final chicane on lap 35 of 35. Once again this season, we've said it a lot, and we're going to say it again. Charles Leclerc wins the Canadian Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz will take 2nd place to make it another Ferrari 1-2 as they continue to just be one step ahead of their competition. Verstappen, once again, we've said this lots of times this season, but again Verstappen picks up what he could here as he takes another podium for Red Bull Racing. Russell did close in on Verstappen, showing that Mercedes had some pace, but in the end only 4th place for the young Briton there as Hülkenberg. This is going to be Porsche's best finish in Formula 1 so far. It's 5th place for Nico Hülkenberg as he exits the final chicane and when he gets to that start-finish line. There are 10 points going the way of Porsche there today, and that's a brilliant drive from the German as Bottas will continue Alfa Romeo's consistency here with another P6 and more points going to the Italian team. As then it's Fernando Alonso who will hold on to 7th. Wehrlein gets 4 more points for Porsche. Red Bull get Perez back up into 9th. Not where they would have wanted to see him finish, but still some sort of damage limitation. They tried something different. Probably wasn't the perfect strategy, probably wasn't the quickest strategy, but they from where they started they had to try something different, and they got 2 points out of it. Maybe should have been more like 8 or maybe even 10 points. They might have been able to get up to Hülkenberg, but in the end, only 2 points going for Perez, and only 17 points overall for Red Bull Racing today, which is very disappointing when you look at the fact that Porsche scored 14 points today. So Red Bull really got some issues to fix if they want to stay at the front this season. But now we see our race winner, someone that we haven't seen much of in terms of racing recently. We've seen him pass his teammate a few times this season. But Leclerc has just been so good at getting out front and staying out front. Once you give Leclerc the lead, there really seems like there's no way of anyone being able to fight back here, but it is another victory for Charles Leclerc this season. Every race he's finished, every race he has finished, he has won, so just absolutely stunning driving from the Monegasque, and Ferrari as a team really executing perfectly so far this season. No real errors so far. We had the reliability stuff earlier in the season, but they fought through that and now are really looking like the favourites for this season's championship, as there we see the full results for today's race. So here we have confirmation of the results from today's race. Charles Leclerc, of course, wins it for Ferrari, and again, fastest lap for the Monegasque, as Carlos Sainz will take 2nd place there for Ferrari, with Verstappen completing the podium, ahead of George Russell and Nico Hülkenberg in 5th there. Bottas takes 6th place for Alfa Romeo, with Alonso taking 7th for Alpine, with Pascal Wehrlein and Sergio Perez behind him, with Esteban Ocon taking the final points-paying position today. Then just missing out on the points with both cars was Haas in 11th and 12th there, with Ricciardo up in 13th. Lewis Hamilton managed to recover to 14th in the end, but after starting 2nd, I'm sure that's not where he imagined his race ending. Almost a minute off the win, but still, that's not too bad considering everything that went wrong for him. But Hamilton there, disappointing day for him, and to an extent Mercedes as well, because they looked like they had some really strong pace there, and I think Hamilton would have, at worst, probably still been on the podium, because they looked like they had that little bit of an edge over Red Bull today, but sadly that's just how it is, as only 14th was what they could take back with Hamilton. Now we turn our eyes to the Drivers' Championship standings. Charles Leclerc with a 4-point lead now over his teammate. Change of lead, of course. Charles Leclerc takes it away from his teammate. Verstappen 34 points off the lead now for Red Bull. Perez 41 points off the lead. Consider that Perez was championship leader earlier in the season. It is crazy to think now he's sitting 41 points away from it, and is now closer to George Russell than he is to Charles Leclerc, which is crazy to really think about. But yes, now we look further down the order. Hamilton is in 6th, ahead of Esteban Ocon, who is best of the rest, but only just 3 points ahead of Nico Hülkenberg there, with Valtteri Bottas in that little group of cars as well, joined by Fernando Alonso. Sort of knows that those sort of group of 4 cars that are battling out for best of the rest, battling out for 7th in the Drivers' Championship so far this season. Pascal Wehrlein finally is on this graphic for the first time in a while. He gets up into 14th place in the Drivers' Championship. 7 points now is his tally, just a point less than Schumacher, but still quite a way off his teammate. Now we look over to the Constructors' Championship standings. Ferrari, just unsurprisingly, continue to grow their lead. It's a 71-point lead now for the Italian team ahead of Red Bull Racing. Mercedes sitting 3rd there quite comfortably, with Alpine in 4th. Then we have Porsche jumping up into 5th. Now, we said last time, sort of to keep an eye on this battle over 5th in the Constructors' Championships. Porsche now jump up into that position, but it's still very close. That sort of group of Porsche, Alfa Romeo and Haas all looking like they're very much in that battle over 5th place in the Constructors' Championship there. But it's exciting to see lots of battles throughout the field so far this season. Still only 2 teams yet to score points, those being Aston Martin and Williams, but they continue to sort of be not too far off the pace. We've seen them getting a little bit further up the order. They're not still sort of in that fight for points yet, but they're getting closer and closer, it seems. So I hope that we'll see both of those teams score some points before the end of the season. Maybe well just take a bit of a dramatic race for that to happen. That's it now for today's race here in Alternative Apex. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was quite an exciting one. Next time out is the British Grand Prix as we reach the halfway point of the season. So maybe start to get a better idea of how all the teams are performing, and perhaps into that second half of the season we'll maybe see some of the teams fluctuate a bit more in performance as they start to really develop their race cars. Of course, all these cars are brand new for this season. So make sure to check out the next race out in Britain. But yes, that's it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye.